for those of you attending this webinar series for the first time, I'd like to cover who is Cultivate Advisors and why are we qualified to speak with you here today. So we work with hundreds of small businesses every month across North America to help drive top line and bottom line revenue through accountability systems and processes to help grow and scale your business. And if you happen to be a co-working space on the East Coast or West Coast that is getting sun and it's pretending like April is spring, us here in Cultivate Advisors in Chicago are going to pretend not to be salty about the fact that we're getting snow this afternoon. So jokes aside, after Vince shares our content today, I'll give you 2 ways that you can interact with this training following the event. So make sure to look for that on the tail end. And I'm going to pass it over today to Vince for today's training.
Hey everyone, just want to do a quick mic check here. Use the chat room feature and let me know if you can hear me. We have 1, okay, 2, a couple more people. Okay, perfect, thank you. Awesome. My name is Vince Crone, I'm with Cultivate Advisors. Let's dive into a couple just expectations as we kick off today. I know we have a short time frame, so I want to make sure we get as much impact out of this as possible. So, couple things. Some of you just use the chat feature here. So the chat is going to be for any live discussion that we have throughout the group. A couple times throughout today's presentation, I'll be asking you questions and tell you to utilize the chat room for your answers. And also in the mix, while I'm sharing some other pieces of information, you can chat with each other to discuss, how some of these skills have worked for you in the past and what you do. Oftentimes, our listeners take great value out of what each other says, in addition to what we get to share here. So be sure to communicate with each other in that chat room. We'll be calling on it quite a bit. If you're going to use the chat room, when you go to the To section, it says all panelists or all panelists and attendees. Make sure that it says all panelists and attendees if you're going to type. That way everybody can see it, not just us on Cultivate's end. There's a Q&A section as well. Those questions will go right to Cultivate Advisors. If your question applies to the group, we'll do our best to answer it real time. If the question's unique to you, we might say let's take it offline. We'll be sure to get you an answer. It is important to us, but we'll answer it privately in what we'll call the parking lot, and that's just to not distract from the information that's being at hand. I'm going to launch a couple polls along the way. It'll help with some engagement to see where you are in the skill set, so I know how to tailor any of the messaging that's coming out live time, and also help us determine future webinar content as well. And then after the webinar, as Cassie said, she's going to help you understand how do you get this deck and how can you communicate with us beyond that. So just a quick recap on what Cassie said. Cultivate Advisors works with small business owners. We know that you're juggling lots of hats on a day-to-day basis, and oftentimes you get stuck staring at these hats going, I don't even know where to begin. We empathize with you. You're not alone. That's where we get to come in. We really get to help you out through that. Today, we're talking about sales and more specifically closing deals. There's a lot of components that are going to go into closing deals, but for the purposes of today, we're really going to shorten things down to assume that you've already gotten past the gatekeeper and you're having a conversation with an individual. So to kick things off, let's utilize the chat feature. What is your biggest struggle when it comes to closing deals? Resistance to change. Yep. Yeah, it's a big one, Amanda. People don't want to change what they're doing currently. Managing, it sounds like my dad trying to use new technology. Managing active leads. Brad, what do you mean by managing active leads? While you're typing there, Jim and said ink on the paper at closing, just getting the final signature sometimes. Yeah. Best people to contact, best way to contact. I got it. Perfect. Okay. The final closing, and is it Aliden? Am I saying that properly? Perfect. Aliden, what in the final closing is difficult for you? Which piece of it? And just less competitive pricing, building relationships with the end user. Yeah. Competitive pricing is a big one. That's a tough one. Okay, if Aliden answers, I'll circle back to that. But let's dive in here. Let's talk about really what the purpose is today. Now, you just saw everybody kind of share a lot of different angles and a lot of different pieces that they struggle with, and you're not alone. We probably all struggle with all those things at some point. So today, really, I just want to provide some skills that's going to allow you to ask for business or to reach an agreement to reach an end goal in an effort to help with the closing skill. Okay, help close ratio. And today, really walking out of here, I want you to have at least 2 takeaways on what you can shift to increase your closing ratio. Now, being that this is sales, we do have to do a little bit of setup here because sales is ego driven, right? For the fact that anybody can sit across from somebody else and sell to them takes a bit of confidence, takes a bit of ego, and also has a blow to your confidence or a blow to your ego when the sale doesn't go your way. So I want to be sensitive to that. And I want to say that what I'm about to share for the next 35, 40 minutes or so, it's not going to be rocket science. Okay. I'm not coming in with a brand new way that you're going to close all these deals. I'm going to share some very tactical ways that you can actually move from this place to get that sale. And if you implement these, or if you're not implementing these, it might be a good opportunity for you to say, let me try something new. All right. So I just want to approach it through that lens so we don't walk out of here going, oh, I knew all that stuff. That's great if you do. Expand on it, build on it, and use the chat room to help some other people if you do. So let's start it all off. Let's say you're in the door, you're past the gatekeeper, you're talking to the right person. Okay. One of the tips that I would have is there's an efficient way to start and end every meeting, and we'll call it POAD, POAD. Right? This is how you should start and end every conversation. And really what this stands for is purpose, outcome, agenda, and decision. Okay, the purpose is why we're here today. Outcomes are how we're going to achieve that why. The agenda is what we're going to be talking about. And the decision is when we're going to be talking about everything. Hang on one quick second here. All right. Sorry about that. I was just told I'm not sharing my screen. I made all these great slides and I've been looking at them myself. Sorry about that. So purpose, outcome, agenda, decision. Let's go through these each one by one. So purpose. In purpose, you connect the big picture and vision, right? This is the gap. It's more like, here's where you are, here's where you want to be, and the gap is that point in between. Like that's why we're here today. We want to bridge that gap or fill that gap. The purpose, just to have some context to it, should be about 15 words or less, and it should connect to the why of why you're there, and you should use it to establish a filter and a focus, right? This helps you from getting off track in the meeting. Always bring it back to, well, this is why we're here today. People forget within 5 minutes what you're selling, why you're there, and how it's going to help. You have to remind them and keep bringing it back to the filter on this purpose of it. Outcomes. Write your outcomes down. Let them know what you want to get out of that meeting and share that first. Okay, here's what I'd like to walk out here today with. Here's what I'm looking for. And then afterwards, ask them their outcomes. Okay, what would you like to make sure you find out from me today? What would you like to make sure we talk about today? As they share their outcomes with you, don't answer their outcomes. Don't answer any questions. Just validate that you've heard it correctly and then answer through the agenda. And I'll share with you what I mean by that, and I'll tell you why in 1 second, why you would do that, okay? As part of the outcome process is what we call being assertive, okay? Aggressive people focus on what they want. Passive people focus on what the other person wants. Assertive is when we both get something out of it. That's how we get a win-win, and that's how we start working towards alignment and getting a sale. And so that's why you share your outcomes. Here's what I need. They share theirs. Here's what they need. And together, you can start to make that happen. That's how you be assertive. With the agenda, just confirm the time that all parties have so you can be respectful of that. Maybe their day shifted. You want to make sure you get to the points that you need to right up front. And then give a rough agenda with estimated timelines. Like, hey, I'm going to spend just about 10 minutes up front asking you some questions to get a better understanding. And then I'll dive into what we do for about 15 minutes to help connect some of those dots. And that outcome that you were talking about, I'll make sure I answer it in that 15-minute time span. That's how you get to bring it back. So now they know there's a place where their answer is going to be, and they have a reason to listen to you more now. And also, it doesn't allow them just to interrupt along the way. If every time they ask something, you're answering it immediately, it allows the whole meeting to derail and allows them to take control. So when I say in the outcomes, when you get their outcome, don't answer it, just validate it. and then in the agenda, tell them where you'll answer that. That helps keep you in control of the meeting at that time. And then decisions is very easy. Decision is agree. Do we need to reach any decisions when we leave here today? And then also use that as a filter to keep you on track. It'll manage and simplify the conversation. Hey, walking out of here today, we just need to decide, are we going to have another call? Or walking out of here today, we need to decide, what is going to be the next step from here? Are we going to be partnering, or what we're going to do? Use a decision up front so you know what you're working towards that whole meeting. I've watched a lot of sales calls where people don't share this information up front, and then the meeting ends and it just ends. It's just over. There's no next step. Have a decision ready to be made at the end so you can circle back and go, great. So the decision we had to make today was this. It doesn't always have to be put the ink on the paper, but there should be a decision that's made at the end. Any questions using the chat room? Any questions on POAD? I just want to kick it off with that to start things out. Any questions for that?
Hey, Vince, less of a question, but more of a comment here. Do you ever get, it takes time to get through the purpose, agenda, outcome, and decision of a meeting, and that certainly takes up 5 or 10 minutes of the meeting. Do you ever get pushback or people who really want to get down to business, and how do you overcome that?
Yeah, great question. So this takes way longer to explain than it actually takes to implement in, right? So the way it kicks off is, hey, so to kick things off today, the purpose is to provide some skills that allow you to ask for business or to reach an agreement in your goal in effort to increase closing ratio. The outcomes we're really looking to walk away with today is just 2 takeaways on how to shift your business. Do you have anything you want to make sure that we get out of today? Great, thanks. So here's the order in which I'm going to do it. We'll talk about this. I'll go into this. And then at the end, we'll save some time to make decisions. So, and here's our decisions. It's actually really, really fast. It takes probably less than 90 seconds to be able to get into it. Okay, and it just seems more systematic right now since I'm explaining it in this order. It seems like it takes a long time. You should actually be able to zip right through it and get right into the meeting, but it just establishes a control right out the gate. So I would put practice into it. If you decide you're going to implement this, practice saying what you're going to say, but that's why I wanted to give you a guideline of like 15 words or less here. Share a quick outcome, pull theirs real quick. I don't want you to spend a ton of time. You're not going to go into a paragraph purpose. So hopefully that helps clear up some of that context for some of you. We can circle back to this in a little bit as well. Just a good way to kick off a meeting. And then at the end, you actually get to circle back and just cover all this and go, so really the purpose of today was this. Do you feel we did this? Do you feel we stuck to this? Great, yes. My outcomes were this. I certainly got what I needed. Your outcomes were this and this. Did we hit your 2 outcomes? Great, yes, yes. And then you move into the decisions. This is also part of closing where you get them used to going, we've accomplished what we said we were going to do. This is the process of building trust and getting them to agree that, yes, we are making movements here. So it kicks off and ends the whole process, right, which leads us right into building trust. Okay, so we're going to talk about building trust in a couple different slides and formats in here today. Hang on one second. Sorry about that. Now there's 4 options or 4 results, right? When it comes to doing sales, there's like a win-win, right? We both walk out of this feeling great about it. There's a lose-lose. They didn't get what they needed out of the conversation. We didn't get a sale. We both walk away. They're not any better for the day, and we're not any better for the day. There's a win-lose where we win and they lose, right? We took them for a ride. We sold them. They didn't really want it, but we got the deal, and they're going to lose in the long run. And then there's a lose-win where we give up everything and we give up all the money that we were going to make on it just to get a sale, but they ended up winning because they got a good price. Okay. This is really how it should look. Okay. At the end of the day, when we're trying to solve, that's when we wind up with a win-win. When we're trying to win, or each party's trying to win, that's where we wind up in either a lose-lose, a win-lose, or a lose-win. Okay, try and solve the entire time. You're not trying to sell, you're trying to solve. And that's a big component, right? That's why we want to get outcomes up front, because we can help solve for that along the way. Now, 3 items necessary to build trust and work towards solving and getting that win-win are empathy, being needs-focused, and the value you offer. So I'm going to do a quick poll here. Which one of these 3 could you use the most help on? utilizing empathy, being needs focused for the customer, or the value that you offer? I know some of you probably look at a few of these and go, I could probably use some help on a few of them. We probably all could at sometimes. Great, thank you. All right, let's take a quick look here. So needs focused was number one, right? That's 50% of the group said we could work on needs focused. The next part said the value offer. That's 42% of us. And 17% of us said empathy. So, all right, let's dive into these, and I'll spend a little more time on the ones that got highlighted more, and I'll fly through the other one just a little bit, just for the sake of the majority of the room here. So, first of all, let's talk about empathy. Right? There's three different types of pathies. Right? There's apathy, sympathy, and empathy. So, utilizing the chat room, what does apathy mean? Yep, don't care, lack of caring. Right? Great. I don't care. What about sympathy? Sympathy, I care. Yeah. What does sympathy sound like? Care enough. I feel for you. Yeah, I feel for you. I'm sorry for you. Right? It's more usually led by like I'm sorry. Right? There's a caring element there, but it's more for you. What does empathy mean? Yeah, the ability. Aladdin, you were just ready. You had that typed out, ready to go. Ability to understand and share. I've been there before. Brad, that's a huge one, right? Yeah, both of those. Ability to understand and share, and I've been there before. Right? I understand what you're feeling. Yeah, these are all great ways that we get to share, right? Like I understand. Empathy is one of our greatest interpersonal skills because it allows us to have better communication with people around us and increases our understanding of each other. So when somebody feels like you've really been in my spot before, that really starts to build that trust. You should look to connect on those pieces out of the gate. And so I want to just look at a couple different empathy statements for the portion of the group here that says they struggle with this piece a little bit. Here's just a couple statements you could utilize that would help you in the future, right? So like, thank you for giving me a few minutes. I know time is limited, right? We're just acknowledging right now, like this is kind of a gift that we were able to be here right now. Um, so if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying, and you're able to validate that back and making sure that we're all on the same page and aligned. Here's one that a lot of people are afraid to ask. Like, how am I doing so far? Am I meeting your needs? And a lot of people are afraid to ask that because they're afraid to hear the no that might come back from that. But you would actually probably want to know that early in the process so you can adjust and you can pivot. But if they tell you yes, what a closing question that ends up being. But it shows that you care along the way and that you're with them, right? This is about both of us here, right? And the last one here, like if they explain what's going on when you're doing some needs finding, it's like, hey, I get frustrated when that happens to me too, because, and then explain the connection of why you'd get frustrated when that happens. Okay, so just a couple different empathy statements out there. My favorite one is how am I doing so far? Am I meeting your needs? Don't be afraid. Own it. Ask that question along the way. What a great closing question. Needs probing, asking open-ended questions, right? So asking needs, probing questions is a component that really just goes hand in hand with focused listening. So there's two types of questions, right? There's close-ended, which sounds like, did you hit your sales target last quarter? Right? That's either yes or no. So that's just closed. And then there's an open-ended question like, what skills helped you hit your sales target last quarter? Right? That last question opens people up and gets them to really, really share. So you get to go do some needs finding. Closed questions prevent you from getting that needy answer that's going to really help you understand their priorities. Questions designed to uncover a prospect's needs, priorities, and hesitations are called needs finding. They need to be specific, detailed, and designed to clarify a prospect's perceptions. So some examples of this. What are some of your short-term and long-term goals? What are some of the business challenges that you're struggling with? What kind of solution are you looking for? What are some other open-ended questions? Utilizing the chat, what are some other open-ended questions you'd like to ask when it comes to sales? Give it another few seconds here before I'll suck it up to nobody's answering me. Okay, awesome. Well, let's go with these three then. What are some of your short-term and long-term goals? So if you're someone out there and you don't really have open-ended questions that you know to ask, let's write these three down. What are some of your short-term and long-term goals? Cassie or Paige, if you want to pop these into the chat room, that'd be great. Right? What are some of your short-term and long-term goals? What are some of the what are some of the business challenges that you're struggling with? And what kind of solution are you looking for? Yep. And then what kind of solution are you looking for, Cassie? Perfect. Awesome. Once you've asked this open-ended question, you're not done with questions. Now the key is to be digging deeper. Okay, don't accept answers at face value. You're still in the building trust stage, and you need to be able to peel that onion and expose the underneath a bit more. So after you ask an initial open-ended question, ask at least 3 additional questions to understand the real need behind a client's initial response. All right, so we would say, we'd recommend using the 5 whys, right? Like who, what, when, where, why, and that'll help you bring out that true need that's really there. Okay, that's where you get down on the surface. There might be many problems that you need to solve, and you're not going to be able to solve them all in one shot. You have to go down to that lever that you can pull that'll make an impact immediately, which is presumably the problem that you solve. Cassie, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was just going to make a comment here because this is something you are really, really good at, and something I have experienced you not allow people to settle at face value. And I'm wondering if this is a skill that you've learned over time, or you just have always had it amongst your skill set.
No, it's a great question. I've been married for a while, and I like to annoy my wife by asking her 8,000 questions in a row. So that's probably where I learned it. But no, for a real answer here, it was something that I did have to learn actually, because what I would find is when I would start doing sales, I would take the initial answer and I would realize at the end that I'm not able to connect to that, or I can't solve it. Like talk to somebody and they say I'm not getting enough customers in. It's like, well, I don't know, like I can just solve that broadly across the board. Like, why aren't you getting enough customers in? Like, what are you currently doing to get customers? Like, when are you advertising? Who is your target market? Like, where do you want your ideal customer to come from? Like, once I was able to start connecting that, I was able to narrow down in the industries I was in of like, okay, like this might be a really good fit for me. But there was also a lot of times digging deeper would take me out of the equation, and that was okay because I saved myself a lot of time and a lot of trying to force a sale at the end, because it should never be forcing. It should always be solving. And if I can't solve it, we should move on. So it's a great question. It was a learned behavior.
Awesome point. Thanks.
No problem. So basically, what we're doing here, let's just call it a root cause analysis. And I want to walk you through just one of my favorite root cause analysis exercises, just to watch how this process goes. It's a goofy example, but I want you to try and relate it to sales and think back to a time when, or think to what you would do in each one of these situations. Some of you might have seen this before. It's called the Washington Monument root cause analysis example, which I don't know if that's what it's called, but that's what we're calling it today. So a gentleman named Donald Messersmith proposed this example about 25 years ago, and it gives really great insight. So he said the Washington Monument, and this was a real thing that was happening, the Washington Monument is deteriorating. So a lot of salespeople would hear that. They'd go visit a customer and say like, what's the problem? Okay, the Washington Monument's deteriorating. Great, I can help you fix it. But you can't, because first you have to find out why. Why is it deteriorating? You can't just solve for anything no matter what the cause. So when you ask why, what you would find out is that harsh cleaning chemicals are being used to clean the monument, and that's actually what's causing it to rot and deteriorate. So now you have a sales guy come in and go, switch the cleaning chemicals. I can sell you cleaning chemicals that don't ruin any surfaces at all. Okay? And that could solve the problem, but it might not. So you have to ask, why are there harsh chemicals being used in the first place? Why do we need harsh chemicals? Why didn't we use non-harsh chemicals if that would solve it? And it's because there are bird droppings all over the top of the Washington Monument that are causing a need for deep cleaning, right? So now you have somebody come in with a shotgun and go, great, let me go out there and kill all the birds for you. I can solve this problem. That's not it either, right? Why are there so many birds flying in that area? Sorry for the image. It's because birds eat spiders and that's their food supply. The ground is infested with spiders all around the Washington Monument. And so now you have a rep coming in going, well, a bird's got to eat, but we can go spider stomping or go get an exterminator. And again, why? Why are there so many spiders? Because spiders eat gnats and other insects. And that's who's inhabiting the area. So their food supply is there. Okay. Again, why? Why are they there? Finally, we're getting somewhere. The lights at the monument draw the insects, right? The lights draw the insects, which draws the spiders, which draws the birds. And I don't know why she swallowed the fly. Perhaps she'll die. Okay. Most people would go for the solution right now. Okay, shut the lights off. There'd be some different types of solutions, but there might be another piece to look at. Okay. Other memorials aren't having that problem. Okay, so now we did some comparison and we're going, okay, why? And now it's the Washington Monument light goes on first. Great. Now we can actually start getting to solve something. So now the solution can be the original thought of turn the lights off. It could be turn the lights on later, or we could actually solve for the situation. And if I'm selling bug-proof lighting, now I can come out and sell you something that would actually solve the problem. But if we went right out of the gate and we tried to sell cleaning chemicals that didn't rot the surface, you would have never solved the problem because the birds would have still kept coming no matter what. And you would have just been overly cleaning. It would have led to a different problem and you would have eventually lost trust. Okay, so it's one of my favorite examples along the way when it comes to needs finding. Using the chat room right here, as you hear that, what sticks out? What are you thinking? What are you feeling as you hear that? So, as you hear me say, there we go. Oliver, finding the deep why allows us to sell towards the real issue. Yeah. What else? Anybody else take anything out of that? Anything different? Need to focus on asking why more? Yeah. There's always room for change. Jumping to conclusions or assumptions about their need is not the way to go. Yeah. And that's a big one, Amanda, right? Like whenever we try and jump right in and just sell right away or solve it immediately, people don't like that. People like to be heard. That's also part of empathizing, listening to the whole problem and getting people to think about things a little bit differently. If you asked why a few times and somebody can break it down to something they've never thought about before as to the real why, and now you can help connect how you can solve the real why, think of what you just did. You just exposed them and you just built up such an incredible trust within them. Now they're going to buy from you. That's what's going to happen at that point. But if you just try and solve and sell right away, it's no different than your product being on the shelf at a store. They can go in and window shop if that's what they wanted. When you're meeting somebody face to face, your job is to find out their specific need and tailor it and make sure it fits them. And you have a responsibility to let them know if it doesn't also. Okay, if you're the cleaning chemical guy, you can't solve this problem. You have a responsibility to help them out in a different way and build trust a different way because they will need cleaning eventually. So let's talk about value real quick. This was like the third piece of trust. Just some quick tips here. Link company strength with value for consumers. Like, hey, we're great at stopping bugs with our bug-proof lighting. Like link what you're really good at with the value, right? That would come from that. Be confident on your products. Okay, some of you out there don't have to be so shy about it. It's okay to peacock a little bit. If you know what you do and you know what you do well, whether it's a product or service, be confident on it. And then offer extraordinary service. Whenever I'm coaching individuals on sales, I'll hear things like, what do I do if our price and product is the same or more than our competitor? Right? Like actually we can't beat that, right? What you do is you beat them in your service and your ability to deliver. Okay, beat them in that connection piece. All right, if somebody's got a way better price and a way better product, you focus all your effort then on that relationship build. Okay, because people are going to buy from who they like. Very few people make decisions in life based on price alone. Very few things in life you buy on price alone. Okay, most things you buy on relationships or who you trust or where you trust. That's your goal. That's where your extraordinary service gets to come in. Next, active listening skills. Okay, it's not always enough to just simply listen to a person and have the sense of waiting to speak. I don't know if you've ever talked to somebody and while you're talking, you can see they're looking at you, but their mouth is kind of half open and you see words starting to form. They're waiting just for their turn to interject. That'll actually cause you to talk more or actually start to lose trust and faith in that person. Okay, that type of listening causes a loss on all important information and denies a chance at making a connection. Okay, it's important that you be attentive. You remove any distractions. Do not have your phone out unless it's a need for the sale, and only pull it out when it is, and then put it back away. That's the first rule in breaking all trust with me, is if somebody looks away and checks their phone or even checks a watch while I'm talking to them, I'm already out. Make eye contact. Paraphrase when you can, right? Help sum it up, but play it back to them and use slightly different words so we can kind of realign the message. Ask follow-up questions, which we just talked about, and then request clarification. If you don't understand something about the business or about the individual you're talking to, ask for clarification. People love to explain. They love to talk about themselves, and they know themselves better than anybody else. Give them a chance to do it. Don't be afraid to ask for clarification. Okay, you may know your product and your industry the best, but it's okay to ask them about stuff about theirs. You don't have to know it all. You just know what you do really, really well. One of the biggest pieces here for listening is LLAMA. Stands for listen, acknowledge, make a statement, and ask a question. Okay, this is such a great loop that you can keep going through when you're talking to somebody, and we'll also bring it up in a little bit when we talk about overcoming objections. Listen, truly listen, and then acknowledge. The next words out of your mouth need to be validating what you heard them say. You don't want to go into your own thing. You want to play it back. When you acknowledge, you play back exactly what you heard and how you heard it, because that is your chance to align, right? If you did hear them correctly, great. Now they know you're listening, and now there's trust starting to build. And if you didn't hear them correctly, it gives them a chance to re-explain it to you so you can get back on that same page. When you make a statement, the statement should be intention for whatever you plan on doing next. And then you ask a question to ask permission of it. So it'd be like, great, Amanda, I hear that you're telling me right now that that XYZ is the problem and you're looking to fix this by December. Am I understanding that properly? Great. Okay, awesome. I'd love to be able to share how we could solve that problem by December. Are you open to hearing what I have to say? Ask the question, and now we have permission to go into our pitch, right? But they might actually want to be able to share more with us. That's why you ask permission before you just start pitching. Such a great tool, such an easy tool, but such a great tool. And if after you ask a question, if they want to keep talking again, go right back to listen, and you just follow that loop. Let's talk about buying questions. Okay, and just a little preface here. At the end of these, I'm going to ask you for some of your buying questions. So let's just get ready to type and get everybody ready to go. So buying signs are communication signals that suggest the prospect is now ready to discuss how they can take ownership of the product and how it would specifically benefit and work for them, right? So these usually take the form of statements or questions from the prospect. These assertions like help bring them one step closer to comfort zone of making the purchase, right? So are there any other styles or colors to choose from? Okay, they might ask you something like that. How quickly can you get this project underway? How long would it take you to complete this project? Do you offer financing? Have you worked with other companies in my area? When you start to hear some of these questions, these are signals that they are taking one step closer to the purchase at this point. And you need to recognize that. You need to recognize that you've made that leap to the next step, because very soon after this, you're going to start working on closing, because that's what they're getting to here. What are some other buying questions that you've heard before? When will I see return on investment? It's a great buying question. Aladdin, I love how you're all typed up and ready to go to just pound that the second I ask. Thank you. I appreciate the preparation. What else? What are some other buying questions that you've heard? This will really help everybody. Share these with everybody. This is great for people to recognize along the way, to know that you are turning the corner in the sale right now. Cassie, feel free to chime in as well when you're talking to potential clients. What do you hear? Okay, is this where we're going to sit today? All right. What makes your product more desirable than competitors? Great. Awesome. If we think of some more questions, put them in there. People can really grab value from this piece because it'll really help people connect when they're about to start closing. Let's talk about knowing when and how to close. So a good salesperson. Okay, Cassie, is there any reason why this wouldn't work well for you? Yeah. Okay, you're asking them the buying question. Yeah, of course. So a good salesperson needs to know when it's time to close and how to go about doing it, right? So this is like once you've started picking up the signals that it may be time to close, you can ask a confirmation question such as like, how soon do you need this? This is a question you can ask back out to them, right? So confirmation question, how soon do you need this? Then it's probably going to go one of two ways, right? You're either going to get objections or you're going to get an answer. If you get objections, you can go to Llama. You can listen, acknowledge, make a statement, then ask them a question about why it's an objection. If you get an answer and they give you a date, you can actually start to proceed with closing, right? So this is also known as trial closing for those of you that have heard that term before. The benefit of this is it's more of a closed question. The nature of your closing technique is really, really important. But the main thing to remember here is just as long as you're respectful to any concern that they have, you're more than likely guaranteed a sale. So again, how soon do you need this? Objection or answer, Llama, or proceed with closing. And then if you answer their objection, you can go back to ask another confirmation question. At this point, they've already indicated that they're interested in you. Now it's just overcoming a concern or moving forward. Reassurance. It's always best to close when a client's on an emotional high and excited about the sale. But it's important to bring the emotions up again before a closing statement. And so because there's a number of reasons to buy that give people a sense of security, you want to remind them about reasons to move forward with the sale. Okay, because emotions are constantly doing this. You want to be able to reassure them. So the reassurance could be like a money back guarantee. It could be a case study and testimonial. Okay, yeah, first month is a free trial, right? Positive reviews. Like, hey, why don't you go check this out? I've had a few other people, those of you that talk about your competitors versus bad mouthing your competitors. I've had a few people tell the prospect, well, why don't you just go on Glassdoor and do a little research on the competitor and see what people say? You know, they might be a good fit. I don't know. I know what we do really, really well, and this is what it is. Okay, but that's where some less than positive reviews can help out, or share some positive reviews about your company. Social proof, right? Social media is pretty rampant right now. You should be able to, if you're not pulling feedback from your consumers to be able to show this, you're actually doing yourself an injustice. This really, let other people sell the product for you. You don't have to do all the heavy lifting, but you have to be able to bring that in. So when attempting to close a sale, there's a few things that you want to remember, right? Number one, remain calm and positive. This is really going to help set the tone for the client. Don't pressure the customer. None of us like to feel like we're being pressured. Okay, even if I walk into a store and somebody comes up and says, hey, how can I help you? The very second I walk in, I already feel like I'm being pressured. Like, give people a moment to get their bearings. Remember to reassure the customer this is reasons that people are going to buy, right? Money back guarantee, first month is free, stuff like that. Keep things simple. Make presentations very easy to follow. If you see what I've done today with most of it, I try and go really big images, letters, and things like that. I try not to go too text heavy on any of these because you want to be able to keep it really simple and easy to follow along the way. and then ask. Always ask closing questions after addressing all the concerns. All right, now let's talk about that. Let's run a poll here real quick about asking for the close. I want to know, are you hesitant in here to ask for the close? To literally just come out and ask for the sale? Waiting on a couple more people. Those of you that said yes, I hope you're open to sharing. What makes you afraid to ask for the close? Looking for a little bit of feedback here. The objections. Got it. So you're afraid that if you ask for the close, they're going to push back. Got it. Okay. What else? The client rejecting and not wanting to hear about the product again. Okay. That's the problem, is you think that it might be just the be all end all and that was your last chance, right? Is that what I'm hearing? Yep. Totally get it. What's yeah, Amanda, agree. Yep. I think a lot of us would probably feel that way. Let me ask this. So for Alide and Amanda here, what is the alternative if you don't ask for the close? What would you do? Hope they ask for the paper and sign the free trial option. Yeah. I think that's real for a lot of people. Just hoping that they decide they want to close on their own without us having to ask for it. And the free trial option is not bad, but you always have it in your back pocket. You'll leave it open, follow up in a few weeks. You want to give them a little bit of time. Yep. Sometimes giving them time is necessary, right? We can't just force people. We don't want to pressure. But yeah, Leiden, you don't like free trials. No, free trials sound less confident to us when we offer them out of nowhere. Just to put that out there for the group. Whenever we start offering caveats like that, without asking for the sale first, it actually sounds like there's a reason that we need to offer a free trial. Okay, if there's like money back guarantee, if there's a couple pieces like that are just standard, okay, if we start everybody on a free trial, that's okay. That's one of those reassurance items. But if it's one of those like tricks in the bag, leave it in the bag until you need it. Okay, whenever we start offering that stuff without a hesitation, it sounds gimmicky. So you need to ask for the close. And it's a skill. It takes a lot of time to practice and develop. Okay, most salespeople do not push hard enough. They have an amazing presentation, and then they put up this wall when it comes to asking for the close. Like they're so confident the whole way through, but then they start to fear losing sales, just like you said, because they're pushing. And it leads to lots of people saying things like maybe or dragging out decisions. Okay, when you hear maybe, or you hear somebody say, let me call you back, in my eyes, that's the same as hearing a no. Like, I wouldn't get our hopes up about that. That's just like hearing a no. Okay, you have to remember, like, people don't like to be sold, but people love to buy. People feel good about spending money. People feel good about buying things. They don't want to be sold into it, but it's okay to ask. Okay, moving to quick no's, it helps reduce burden of potential clients and get you to actual clients much faster. So those of you that are hesitant because you think you might lose that client, I would tell you to try and shift your mindset a little bit too. It's okay to lose that client because it actually gets you back to on track to go find a client that will say yes. You don't want to drag out this looming no forever, only to find out 3 weeks from now, like, oh, maybe, then 3 weeks from now it's a no. And you've spent 3 weeks doing follow-up there when you could have been already prospecting somebody new. Okay, you have such great confidence to go sit across from somebody and sell them, right? You have to go through a lot of rejection before you reach that. Yeah, sometimes you do. And sometimes you hit a home run out of the gate. I've watched salespeople sell the first product their first day on the job at a company, and then I watched them not sell anything else for the next 2 months. And I've also watched people struggle every single day for a solid 2 months, and then when they finally get it, they start getting it. Okay, but sales has ebbs and flows to it. You're going to hear more no's than yeses, no matter what industry you're in, and you should. Okay, if you have that many people saying yes, there's probably something underlying wrong with your product. Okay, when it's too good to be true, it probably is. It's a saying and a cliche for a reason. So it is our job to help people understand how it connects, and people want that opportunity. They want to be able to buy, but you don't gimmick sell them. So try and shift your mindset. You need to get to the people that are going to make the right decisions for you. Last piece on closing techniques here. Okay, there's different types of closing techniques. There's a closing question, right? This is designed to spur an action. Once you ask a closing question, wait for the customer to respond. Okay, don't be afraid of silence. When you ask somebody something and they sit there, let them think. The more you talk and keep interjecting, the more you will talk yourself out of that sale. Okay? Silence may seem awkward to you. Silence is also awkward to the other person. Let them think. That's what they need to do right now. Ask the question, be quiet. Assume the close, right? Assuming from the beginning you're going to close the sale, so you remain confident in your approach, like you're doing the client a favor, right? So you start using language like, "Hey, when we do this, or when we're partnered up, or a year from now, here's when we'll come back." You already talk like you're in the moment, not hypothetical anymore. You talk like you're already partners. That's having an assumptive closing style. Physical action involves like doing something that helps the customer make the decision and introduces the closing question, right? This is when the guy comes to your house and throws dirt on the floor and vacuums it up and then shows you, "Hey, have you ever had something like this before? Is this something that you could really use?" That's a physical action. The best deal, this should be familiar. We all hear people at sales events talking about the best deal ever, but this close appeals to the desire to save money or get something for nothing. That is one of the methods. And then the most important one that I would tell everybody, proper follow up. Schedule the next meeting. What is the next thing you have to sell them in terms of value, right? We're constantly selling to the next step. So for Alyden and Amanda and those of us that are out there where we're not going to get the deal today, how do we sell them to getting the next phone call? That's the sale of the day. I need to get you on the phone again. All right. So next time we talk, let's take the conversation here. Then on that call, you're trying to sell them to the next step. If you offer the best follow up and the best person to person service, you will blow away all of your competitors. I would encourage you every time you have a meeting with a client or a prospect, summarize that meeting with like 3 bullet points, put next steps at the end, and then your reminder of why you're different at the end of that. And this could all be templated and you just change a couple options each time. Send that and have amazing follow up and watch what happens. So just 2 minutes here, actually, Cassie. Why don't I turn it over to you for takeaways, and then you can go into the end as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Vince. So awesome content today on sales and how to close more deals in less time. And I love how you phrase that sales is a mutually beneficial relationship and it shouldn't feel awkward. You're helping somebody get to a decision, and we should all feel very confident in what we're offering. So awesome. So I'm going to get to questions in just a minute in case anybody has some additional questions that we want to ask as the group here. But before we get to that, I want to give you 2 ways as to how you can get involved with this training further. So the first way is to pull out your cell phone, and to receive a copy of this deck, you can text Core Sales to 44222. And that's Core Sales, plural, 44222. The second way is if you're wanting to take your sales approach to the next level, we're offering a free 30-minute complimentary session to those who want to find a customized solution for your business. So we consult on sales and marketing to many of our small businesses that we work with internally. So feel free to schedule a time here using my calendar booking link that I've included in the chat feature. We'd love to learn your story, understand your unique challenges and opportunities, and see how we might be able to help you specifically. Again, completely free, no obligation following our call together, but I'd love to get to know you further. So with all that today, I want to turn it back over to questions here to the group. Any other questions for Vince or I about how to close more deals or get more decisions through the week? We'll hang on here for a couple more moments. In case anybody has a question, please include it in the chat. Yes, Lydin. If you call, if you text to get the slides, you can also receive my email, but I will pop it here in the chat as well. Oh, you already did that. You're so on top of it. It's just Cassie at cultivateadvisors.com. Wonderful. Any other questions, guys? Sales is a big part of how we generate revenue. It's certainly a big part of how I keep the wheels afloat on our team. So feel free to pick our brains.
Yeah, I would say we have about 5 minutes left here, so we'll kind of hang out just for a few minutes. If you have to go, it's okay to take off now. We appreciate you being here. Those of you that might want to stick around and ask something a little more privately, feel free to stick around. We'll be here. Thanks, Lyden. Right back at you.
Awesome, Amanda. Thank you.
All right, everyone, reach out to Cassie or text for the sales deck as well if you need it. Hope you have a great afternoon.
Bye-bye.